Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing LeetCode problem number 3, longest substring without repeating characters. This is a pretty popular LeetCode problem, and today we're going to solve it together. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel, it really helps me out. Okay, let's get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started by reading the problem statement. Given a string s, find the length of the longest substring without repeating characters. For example 1, the output is expected to be 3. Why? Because the longest repeating substring without repeating characters is A, B, and C, right? If we keep going, we can see A, B, and C is there as well too, but you can see that there's a recurrence in B, right? So B, C, B, that is incorrect. That cannot be the longest substring. B, C, B, B. So whenever we run across a repeating character, well, that cannot be a substring, right? For example number 2, there's a whole ton of B's, right? And our longest substring without repeating characters can only be 1, right? Because all the way until we get to the end, we can only get 1. What about PWW, KEW? Our expected output here is 3, right? And the answer is WKE with a length of 3. So WKE, right? That is our longest substring without repeating characters. We can do like PWW, but that's only 2, right? And then when we get to WW, well, that's not a substring at all. If we go WKE, well, that's 3, and that's our highest so far. And then if we do WKW, well, that's incorrect. But we could also do KEW, and that's also correct, right? So that's 3 right there. Okay, notice that the answer must be a substring. PWKE is a subsequence and not a substring. So a substring is characters that are all tied together. For instance, WKE or KEW, right? So what are we kind of doing here? Well, first off, we should notice that, well, we're taking the max, right? We're trying to check the max against a whole bunch of different substrings. For instance, here, like, we're checking 3 versus 3 here, and, you know, the answer is going to be 3 regardless, so that's our answer. We're checking our max as we go through this substring, right? And our max currently is only 1 and can only be 1. Here we have another max. It's 2 at first, but then we come over here to WKE, and that's 3, right? So we're checking the max from the first one to the second one, and the second one obviously wins out, right? Because that's 3. But how do we even check all this stuff? How do we check our letters? How do we check all of our substrings and all that sort of thing, right? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add a 2-pointer system. You can kind of see I was already establishing a 2-pointer system by the way I was highlighting the characters, right? So I have A, B, and C here. Well, that's 3. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. Okay, A, B, C, A. Okay, well, that's incorrect, right? Because now we have a repeating character. That's why that's incorrect. So now our answer is 3 here. And we can move on to B, and that's incorrect because we have 1 here. So you can see here, as I'm moving my cursor and highlighting, I'm actually moving to the next one if that character already exists, right? So that's going to be our conditional. If this thing already exists, well, we want to move the character up, right? Because we can't have existing letters, okay? So the way we're going to do this is we're going to keep a map, and the map is going to keep track of all of our letters. As we go through this, we're going to initialize the key and the value to the letter, and we're going to increment pointer 2 as we keep going. Notice we can't do a for loop in this situation. Why? Because we need to control when we can increment pointer 2. And a for loop doesn't really allow us to control pointer 2. What does allow us to move pointer 2 is our while loop, right? We get to say when pointer 2 moves forward, not the for loop. Okay? So then we can check the max versus the distance. So we're checking our count. So every time we have a number A, B, and C, well, that's 3. But we also want to check pointer 2 versus pointer 1 because that's going to give us our distance. That's how we're going to know what the distance is, right? If the pointer exists in the map, if the letter already exists in the map, well, we're going to get rid of pointer 1 or the first letter in the map, and then we're going to increment pointer 1. So basically what I'm saying is we're going to have A, B, and C in a map, right? And then we're going to move over to A. Well, A already exists in the map. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of A in the map, and then we're going to be left with B, C, and A in the map, right? So pointer 1 is going to move forward, and then we're going to have 3 in the map. So hopefully that makes sense. We'll go ahead and code this out, and it'll make a little bit more sense once we keep going. So let's go ahead and get started here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up our entire algorithm. So we're going to say let pointer 1 equals 0, let pointer 2 equals 0. We're going to set a map, and we're going to set that equal to an empty object. And then we're going to set up a count, right? And our count is what we're going to return at the very end. We're going to return the max count. Okay. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set up our while loop. So in the while loop, what we're going to say is pointer 2 less than s.length. Why? Because we want to iterate through the entire array or the entire string until we get to the end of the string. And the end of the string is represented as s.length. Okay. The next thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and say let letter 1 equal s of pointer 1. And then we're going to say let letter 2 equal s of pointer 2. Okay, let me give this some more space here. All right, so now we have our letter 1 and letter 2. And the first thing that I said is we want to check the map to see if the letter exists. So what we're going to say is an if statement, and we're going to say if map does not contain letter 2, well, we're going to add it to the map. So we're going to say map of letter 2 is equal to letter 2. It doesn't really matter what we set this to. We just want to make sure that we initialize the value in the map, right? Our map is really going to keep track of the keys. That's really what this thing is doing. We don't really care about the value in the map. We just care that it's keeping track of it. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to say pointer 2 plus plus. This is our conditional. If the map exists or doesn't exist, then we want to keep incrementing through the string, right? And then lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to say count is equal to math.max, and we're going to check the count versus pointer 2 minus pointer 1. So as we loop through this string, basically what we're doing is we're continually adding pointer 2. We're continually adding to pointer 2. So let's say that we're on string C, right? Let's say that we're on letter C. Pointer 2 is now equal to 0, 1, 2, right? And 2 minus 0 is equal to 2. So we're going to continually add to pointer 2. We're going to continually add to the count, and we're going to continually check the count to see what is greater. All right. If the map of letter 2 does exist, then we're going to say delete map of letter 1. And don't get confused here. What we're doing is we're saying, all right, now pointer 2 is onto another A. We're going to slash A here, and we're going to move A up, right? A exists, and now we're going to slash B. We're going to slash C, and now we're back to A, and it does not exist, right? So then from there, what we're going to say is pointer 1 plus plus. And A, like I said, is going to keep incrementing. So now this doesn't exist. Pointer 2 does not exist. And we're going to move it to B. So now this is our sliding window. We're sliding it over and over and over again as we keep going. Let's go ahead and run this. All right, so all of our test cases pass. But I want you to take notice of something else. Let's go ahead and take a look at another example. So our count is equal to 0, our pointer 1 is equal to 0, and our pointer 2 is also equal to 0, and our map is empty, right? So the first thing that we're going to check is we're going to check if map of letter 2 is in the map. No, it isn't. So we're going to set the letter equal to itself, right? Next, we're going to increment pointer 2. So now pointer2 is equal to 1. Now we're going to check our math.max. Or we're going to check our count and our pointer2 minus pointer1. So what's greater, 1 minus 0 or 0? Well, the answer is 1, right? We're going to increment. After that, we're going to go through the loop again. Does B exist in the map? No, it doesn't. So we're going to add it to the map. We're also going to increment pointer2. So now pointer2 is equal to 0, 1, 2. And 2 minus 0 is what? It's 2. And that is greater than 1. So we're going to stay at 2. And now pointer2 is pointing to C. We're going to go through the loop again. Does C exist? No, it doesn't. So we're going to add it to the map. Okay. Now we're going to increment pointer2. And that is equal to 0, 1, 2, and 3. 3 minus 0 is what? It's 3, right? And it's greater than 2. Okay. So we're going to loop through the map again, and guess what? Pointer2, which is A, does exist. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete A. We're going to increment pointer1 to B. And now we're going to go through the map again. So we're going to say, all right, does map of letter 2 exist? It does not, right? Because we got rid of letter A. So we're going to say A equal to A. We're going to increment pointer2, which is now B. And we're going to subtract 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 minus 1, which is 3. And that stays the same, right? Because 3 is obviously equal to 3 and it's not greater than it. And then we're going to keep going. So now we're equal to B. Does B exist in the map? It does. So we're going to get rid of B. And then we're going to add to pointer1. We're going to increment pointer1. So now we're at CAB. Does B exist in our map? It does not. So we're going to add it to our map. Okay, and then we're going to increment pointer2, and now it's at C. So we're going to say, does 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minus 0, 1, 2, what does that equal? It equals 3, right? So then we're going to say the last one, does C exist in the map? It does, so we're going to get rid of C. We're going to increment A. And now we can't go any further, right? Because pointer2 is out of bounds. So our max is going to be 3. Okay, let's go ahead and run this. So with the solution, we're at O of n complexity. Why? Because we're looping through S. And then the map. Let's talk about the map space complexity. With the map space complexity, its upper bound is n, right? So we can say that map space complexity is O of k because its upper bound is s dot length. It's n, right? So with that being said, we're going to, and then also on top of that, we're going to go ahead and add and delete from the map. So it continually changes as we move through this string. Okay, I hope this solution really helped you out. If you haven't liked and subscribed to this channel, I hope you do so. It really helps me out. With that being said, I hope you have a great day and a great rest of your week.